hypersensitive to slights, grandiose thinking, enraged when criticized and quick to anger, holds grudges, blames others, denies mistakes, lacks empathy, acts impulsively, controlling, love bombing, lack of remorse, perfectionism, and one-way relationships. These are just a few of the common personality traits that you will see in narcissists and psychopaths. Does that remind you of anybody? Yeah, there are a lot of politicians and celebrities that have many or most of these behaviors, but I'm thinking that the God of the Bible, the Abrahamic God, is probably the biggest narcissist and psychopath that has ever been. And the Bible proves it. Hi, I'm Laurentia. If you haven't been here before, I was a Christian for decades before I got out, and I am now a non-believer. If you like these kind of videos, please like and subscribe and give me a thumbs up, if you will. When I was growing up in the church, I was born and raised in evangelical fundamentalist Christianity. I was taught that God was all perfection and all love, and that if He corrected us, or if we were punished, that this was because of a loving father relationship. What kind of father or parent wouldn't want to correct a child and have him go on the right path? And anything bad that happened to me or to any other human or even animals was our fault. It was because of the fall of Adam and Eve. So we were responsible for everything bad that has ever happened on the earth. But the question is God really a loving father, or is he a narcissistic psychopath? And we're just caught up in his web of love bombing, and then turns to anger and jealousy and control. So that's what we're going to look at today. And we're just going to start at the very beginning in Genesis with Adam and Eve. Let's just start in the very beginning. God loved bombed humans, Adam and Eve, by creating a perfect environment for them. All the food they could have, beautiful environment, the animals, everything for them, all perfection. God would come down every night and walk with them and talk with them, and it was just all glorious. But God had to plant a tree in the middle of the garden. So I'm assuming that Adam and Eve had to cross this every day as they were doing their bidding. And this tree he forbid them to eat out of. We all know the story, right? So the young couple is forbidden to eat from this tree. And of course, we all know what happens. I don't need to go into the gory details. But as soon as they eat from this tree, bam! God unleashes death and destruction for thousands of years in a way that only the most diabolical mind could conjure. Now, does that sound like a loving father to you? Because it doesn't sound like a loving father to me. If you're a parent out there, I'm a parent. If you're a father or a parent, is this something that you would do? I don't think so, because this is called entrapment. Law enforcement is not allowed to entrap people. Human beings on our own have decided that that's unethical to entrap people. So let's read the definition of what entrapment is. Entrapment occurs when a law enforcement official persuades or encourages someone to commit a crime they would not have otherwise committed. The practice is used to catch individuals in the act of committing a crime, but it can be a defense in court if it's proven that the idea of the crime originated with the law enforcement official and not the accused. For example, if an undercover officer convinces someone to sell illegal drugs when they had no prior intention of doing so, this could be considered entrapment. So God is the one who planted the tree. God is the one who told them about the tree. God is the one who created the snake who would talk Adam and Eve, and allowing the snake to talk allowed them, or the snake convinced Adam and Eve to eat of the tree. No, the snake is not Satan. I know a lot of you Christians are going to say the snake was Satan. Can you please point me a verse in Genesis or anywhere in the Old Testament that says, or even in the New Testament, find me a verse that says that the snake was Satan. The snake was not Satan. The snake was just a snake that God cursed and made him crawl on his belly, even though God gave him the ability to talk the people into eating the fruit. So tell me, who committed entrapment? And why do we give God a pass when law enforcement officers are not allowed to do that? The other unethical thing that God did is he didn't fully explain to Adam and Eve the exact consequences that would happen. He told them that they would gain knowledge and surely die. He didn't explain to them that the consequences would last literally till the end of time, that there would be insane amount of suffering and death due to their actions of eating a piece of fruit. I don't consider that a loving father. I would consider that a psychopath who wants to see this destruction, this death. And of course, Christians will say, oh, well, God, this is the one I heard. God doesn't want robots. He wants people with free will. Now, I'm just an averagely intelligent human, but I can think of 100 different ways that God could have made people with free will without entrapping them into doing something so heinous. I don't know why eating out of that tree was that heinous, but so heinous that now we're going to have cancer, we're going to have wars, we're going to have children dying, we're going to have flooding, every kind of death and destruction, even to innocent animals. We're going to have genocides. Everything that you can imagine, 9/11 would happen. Just an amazing amount of horrifying suffering. Did he explain that to Adam? Can you show me a passage in the Bible where God explained the extent of what would happen? No, he didn't. God put Adam and Eve in a situation where they were destined to fail. They had no choice but to fail because God was entrapping them to fail. And that's, now this is just the first story of the Bible. In the Old Testament, when you read if you dare yourself to read the whole Testament, I dare you to do that. If you do, you'll probably turn into an atheist. But later on in the Old Testament, we see that God orders the genocide of the Canaanites, kills everybody in Sodom and Gomorrah, kills the firstborn of the Egyptians. Then he drowns the entire Egyptian army as they were chasing the Israelites. He kills many false prophets, their families, and 14,000 of their followers. Kills 24,000 Israelis for sexual immorality. Kills up to 50,000 Israelites for looking into the Ark of the Covenant. He has 2 bears maul and kill 42 youths for making fun of a bald prophet's head. He drowns the entire earth population of humans and animals except for a few. Now, this is God's greatest hits. You can go on and on. There are so many more in the Bible. This would be a 2-hour video, maybe a 24-hour video. We don't have time for that. So, doesn't this just prove that God has grandiose thinking, that he love bombs and then turns to anger? He is quick to anger, and he acts impulsively, and he has lack of empathy for human suffering. No matter what you say, I know you say, oh, we pray to God and he comforts us. Yeah, after he's inflicted the suffering. So he inflicts suffering and then he love bombs you into thinking that he'll take care of everything. If you go back and look at the list from the beginning, you'll see that God has almost every single one of these traits. The God of the Bible makes Ted Bundy and Jack the Ripper look tame in comparison. And you might say, well, Jack the Ripper and Ted Bundy, they killed the innocent. Oh, really? Doesn't the Bible say that all human beings are born like desperately wicked? It seems to me that Ted Bundy's victims really are about as innocent as the children that God said to run a spear through or bash their heads on the rocks. The Egyptian children, the Egyptian animals that he killed, all of the animals that he drowned, those weren't innocent lives. I don't know. I mean, I don't see the difference. If you start thinking about our worst serial killers, they're tame in comparison to what the God of the Bible has done to human beings. So what's the conclusion here? Who's the better individual? Ted Bundy or the God of the Bible? I'm going to go with Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was the better individual because he was working with puny human intelligence. And according to the Bible, even the most intelligent person, and I think Ted Bundy, he was pretty intelligent. I think he was even in law school. So he was a fairly intelligent man. But his intelligence is puny compared to the all-knowing, everywhere God that created this whole thing. He created everything. He knows it all. So he has a higher burden of responsibility, even though he tries to flip that responsibility onto us. Don't you love the way that God takes everything that he's done and flips it around so it's our fault? It's all our fault. Isn't that something? The jealousy, the pettiness that he has, the impulsive anger. And oh, Christians will say, well, he just wants a relationship with us. How often have you heard, oh, Christianity is not a religion, it's a relationship. Yeah, a one-sided relationship, a relationship where one person takes all the blame and the other person demands worship, they demand control, they demand my way or the highway. And when we die, if you're a Christian and you die, when you go to heaven, you're going to spend eternity singing to this God and praising this God and spending the rest of your eternity with this narcissistic psychopath, pleasing him. That's the one-way relationship. That's your reward, is to continue to worship this person for eternity. You know what? I'll take the alternative. I don't think there is a God. I don't think there's a heaven or a hell. I'm 100% sure of it. But if I'm wrong, I will take the alternative because I want nothing to do with that guy. All right, guys, thanks for showing up. I will see you next time.